Today we're in Yorktown. It's the final of our 3 historical cities of Jamestown, Williamsburg, and York.
It's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be fantastic.
Stay with us.
Yorktown is spread out into sections. First you have the visitor center, then the port side of the city, the living museum, and finally the cliff side of town. They have a hop-on, hop-off trolley to make your visit easier, and believe me, you're going to want to take it.
This monument commemorates Cornwallis' surrender to General George Washington, but it wasn't erected as promised for 100 years.
This is a cave historians believe Cornwallis hid in when the Continental Army attacked. He surrendered on October 19, 1781, and 5.5 years of war were over. This was the first time I'd seen a bridge open sideways to let large ships pass.
Yorktown lies just inside the James River, where it meets the Chesapeake Bay. Although famous for Cornwallis' surrender, it was also under siege and a major part of the Civil War. This statue honors the 4 major players in the Revolution: General Washington, Commander-in-Chief, Major General Lafayette of the Continental Army, Lieutenant General Rochambeau from the French Army, and Admiral de Grasse from the French Navy.
The Living Museum was quite a distance away from the port. We were happy for the trolley.
We learned so much from this surgeon.
And usually they're white because white is cheap. You don't have to dye colors, that'll make it cheaper. That's why they're white.
Oh.
And everything we have on here, is linen, which is much more common than cotton at this time period. Cotton's not very cost effective, I'd say, until cotton gin. The surgeon is not an officer, he is a civilian, but he's kind of treated like an officer. For pay purposes, he would be equal to a major, so he's entitled to $60 a month.
Wow.
Which is pretty good. It's about 10 times what a private would be.
Wow.
But I always say entitled to because pay is very irregular in this army because, well, the country has no money. It's hard to
And they
pay a
can't
soldier.
put shoes on the feet, right?
Yeah, that's the big thing about why this army's so bad with supplies. It's not that we don't have supplies, but what do you need to get those supplies? Money. And that's the only thing we do not. They said this is the surgeon tent. Now, what that means, this is his living quarters. So this is not a hospital, not a clinic. He's not taking off arms and legs here. In fact, battlefield injuries are this very small part of the job. Because the biggest killer soldiers throughout history is disease and sickness. That takes many more lives than battles have. So his main function here, what he's spending most of his time doing, is treating the sick soldiers. Try to keep them healthy. They estimate 26,000 Americans will die in this war in the Army. And of those 26,000 deaths, 19,000 were not on the battlefield. They're mainly sickness.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, sickness by far the biggest guess. Even this time period, they're using lead fillings in dentistry, too. They're actually filling cavities by this time.
Wow.
And speaking of dental tools, these are the new dental tools right here. Of course, in a camp, he's not doing anything that fancy. You got a bad tooth that's coming out. So
Yeah.
those are all for tooth extraction right there. Yeah. So he's your dentist, he's a surgeon. One thing he's not technically is a doctor, because this requires no formal medical education to be a surgeon. This is considered an apprentice learned trade.
Oh, wow.
You know, he's a skilled tradesman, like a blacksmith or a carpenter.
Wow.
So just like them, you serve an apprenticeship. You're an apprentice to the trade for 7, maybe 8 years. For a long time, it was the barber surgeon.
Yeah.
By mid 18th century, they're kind of branching off. We got a surgeon. The barber is separate.
Cutting the hair and cutting the skin. Yeah, two different things.
Good bloodletting and a haircut at the same time.
These guys actually let us hold the gun. Boy, was it heavy. What do you think?
It's heavy.
It is heavy.
There's the captain's quarters.
Out by the actual tents themselves. That looks nice for a movie or a TV show, but that's a terrible idea in real life. especially on a nice windy day. It's just disaster waiting to happen. So earthen kitchens like this are actually pretty common for a military kitchen in that time. So you'll see a lot of European armies are pretty much utilizing something very similar to this as well. It is on the company basis, so every company within camp has a kitchen, 10 fireboxes, 10 cooking areas for 10 of those common tents, and then each tent does its own cooking. So one soldier from each tent cooks for himself and his tent mates for the day. There are no dedicated cooks in the army in that time, which in the grand scheme of things, you don't have to do much anyway, so no big deal. If you can boil water, you're good to go. But of course, you're limited by preservation methods of the time period. You're limited by transportation methods too. So you are looking at a lot of salted and a lot of dried foodstuffs for the most part. And even the rations don't change too much between armies in that time period either. You know, a pound of some type of meat is pretty standard. Hard bread is always a staple for armies and navies in that time period. And then any dried vegetables like beans, split peas, sometimes even rice is being rationed out as a vegetable as well. So very limited access to fresh foodstuffs.
They also showed early colonial life in Yorktown. This gentleman was determined to show just how hard farming was.
Their crops were well worth the efforts.
The loom of the day in the 18th century, they don't get much smaller. They do have like little tink looms where you can make like hat bands and garters and things, but looms are, that's the size of them in the 18th century.
I haven't seen one with all the slats.
Oh, we do that to kind of help when they break. It's easier to find out where the women know how to spin because you're always going to need thread for things. You're always going to need string. You're always going to need yarn. So I've got a little bit of wool, but if you're an English colonial, you're probably very familiar with flax for linen and hemp and silk and cotton. Those are kind of the big five for fibers if you're from England or an English colony. And they'd be pretty good at it by the time they were grown up with a house of their own, because little girls learn around 5 or 6.
Life was not easy.
That would have been next door in the farmhouse would do all their cooking and food preserving out here all the time. They never really feel the need to cook inside their home. And the main reason for that is their comfort. They want to keep their house nice and comfortable. They want to keep out the smoke and the heat and the smell.
Right, and they have enough money to go to.
Usually middle class and above in the South usually has enough money to do that, and we represent middle class. So, yeah.
And this is dried herbs for the cooking. I know some of them, but what is this?
Yeah.
Oh, apple.
We've got apples and squash and beans as far as like veggies and fruits. And of course you could do other things too. That's just what we're doing at the moment. And a lot of these herbs can be culinary or medicinal or both. They actually focused a lot more on the medicinal aspect of herbs. They might do a little bit of herbal seasoning, but not a ton as like you would think today. Today, my friend made some tasty stuff. She did potato balls, try to keep the flies away, and corn cake. Both of them were fried in skillets like this one that's up on legs, and they called that a spider in the time period. So she scooped the hot embers out from the fire and put it on the hearth, set that skillet on there, and you can fry just about anything. You could have a soup or a stew. This was the water that she used for boiling the potatoes for the potato balls. So this swinging arm is called a crane, and you would swing it over the open flames and get a nice heavy rolling boil. And when you're ready to, get it out again, we've got several pot hooks and stuff to help pull it back out.
That's true. So here's a 18th century wood shop. Hey guys. As in Jamestown, the main crop for export was tobacco.
Then it was off to the little town on top of the cliffs. Most of it was closed by the time we got there. It's a bit of a climb from the port side to the cliff side. On one side you have this wonderful mural on the wall.
And on the other, you have this church, originally built in 1697 and restored in 1848. It's been a place of worship for over 300 years.
Virginia legislature passed the Acts for Ports on April 16, 1691. to make sure they got custom taxes.
The customs house was built around 1720 to enforce the act. We mostly exported tobacco and imported British-made products and slaves.
Rob knocked on the door, but it wasn't open for visitors.
The stone walls were unique in that they had this rounded brick cap.
Mopejack Coffee Roasters was one of our favorite places.
We roast our own coffee in-house with our roaster. Yeah, small batch roasting, the best quality you're gonna get. We get beans from all over, South America, Central America, the area of Sumatra, Ethiopian. So really you're getting a lot of beans from everywhere. And then we blend our own blends in-house as well. So this is our most popular coffee, our Dead Rise.
So, what's the process of roasting?
It has 3 rows of atmospheric burners. Think of a grill.
Yeah.
And then there's a big steel drum, and it agitates it just like a washing machine. Keeps everything moving to the middle. And then it pours out, and that's actually the cooling bin. Oh. And coffee, just like vegetables or steak, I mean, it'll continue to cook. So you want to, that's a heat sink. So essentially it pulls the heat out of those beans, stopping the roast. And that's how we're able to do a consistent roast all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty fun.
Thanks. Everyone enjoyed the beautiful spring day.
The geese were moving on, and it was time for us to move on as well.
We hope you enjoyed this video. We really had a great time making it.
Such fun.
You know, there's nothing quite like a living museum to bring home the moment in history. In fact, in our next blog, we're going to be discussing this in more depth. If you haven't subscribed yet to our newsletter, then please visit our website and sign up.
We love connecting with you guys, and it's a great way to connect deeper.
It is. It's the reason we do our travel vlog, so that you can visit with us and enjoy everything we see.
Next, we're going to go visit Virginia Beach, which is a pristine beach city in Virginia. Lovely. We found a hidden gem in the middle of Virginia that led us to the next national park that's up and coming. So watch that.
That's exciting. We'll have more about that in the future.
But today we're going to the Barbecue Blues and Brews Festival. How fun. What's not to like? It's in Yorktown. So we'll see you. It'll be on our next video. See you later, guys. Bye.
Thanks for watching. And if you like our videos, please press the subscribe button.